Caverna is a rich, incredibly diverse worker placement game in which players take on the role of dwarves, competing to collect the goods they'll need to build farms and raise livestock to feed their families, and to go on daring expeditions to become the wealthiest dwarves in the mountains. This game is for 1 to 7 players, but plays best with 4. Games will last about 30 minutes per player, and the difficulty rating is 3.8 out of 5. To begin, place the 2 single-sided basic game boards on the table. Then place the third double-sided basic game board to their left, making sure that the top left corner matches your current number of players. The 2 additional game boards may or may not be used. Refer to the top left corner again and place them if applicable. Next, grab the 12 action cards. Shuffle them face down, rearrange them in numerical order, then add the double-sided Wish for Children card so that it is the 4th card in the stack. Place the stack near the game boards along with the Harvest Events card. If you're playing with 2 players, remove the Exploration action card from the stack before you shuffle. Now grab the 7 Harvest markers and randomly place them face down on rounds 6 through 12. If you're playing with 2 players, remove 1 green leaf harvest marker from the game and cover round 9 with the skip round 9 card in lieu of exploration and the removed harvest marker. Place the supply boards near the game boards. They all have an introductory game side and a full game side. If this is your first time playing, use the side with fewer spaces. Now place the furnishing tiles on their matching spots on the supply boards. There's more than 1 ordinary dwelling tile. Stack several on their space now and replenish as needed later. Sort the remaining components by type and place them in separate piles next to the game boards to create the general supply. Randomly select a starting player and give them the starting player token. This player and the player clockwise to their left each receive 1 food. The next player receives 2 food, and every other player receives 3 food. Each player should place this food in front of them to start their personal supply in plain view of everyone. Each player will now take a home board and place it in front of them. Then take the 3 house-shaped stable pieces and 5 round dwarf pieces of your chosen color and place 2 of your dwarves side by side in your entry-level dwelling. Keep the remaining 3 dwarves and 3 stables in your personal supply. Give each player a copy of the 2 overview cards to serve as a handy reference during the game. Each round of Caverna is split into 5 phases. Phase 1. Add a new action space. Turn over the top action card from the stack and place it face up on the lowest numbered empty round space on the game board. The revealed action is now available for any dwarf to use. Additionally, if there's a harvest marker on this space, turn it over to find out if there will be a harvest at the end of the round. In the 4th round, when you place the Wish for Children action card, be sure side A is face up. Phase 2. Replenish accumulating spaces. Some action spaces have this arrow, meaning they need to be replenished with goods from the general supply at this point in every round. Add the specified number of the depicted good, regardless of whether it already has goods or not. There's no limit to the amount of goods a space may accumulate. 3 wood with 1 in parentheses indicates that you will add 1 wood every round, unless the space is empty, in which case you put 3 wood on it. Goods in Caverna are not intentionally limited, so if you ever run out, use the multiplication markers or you can improvise. Phase 3. Work phase. At the beginning of each work phase, the starting player goes first and play proceeds clockwise. On your turn, place 1 dwarf from your cave onto an action space that nobody else has a dwarf on yet, then carry out that action. When there are no more dwarves in your cave, your turn is skipped. When everyone has run out of dwarves, the current work phase ends. Some action spaces have multiple actions separated by the words and, or, then, or, etc. And or means you may do both actions one after the other in any order, or you may pick just one of the actions. And then or means that if you decide to do the top action, you must do the following action afterwards. Or you may skip the top action altogether and only do the following action. Some spaces just say or, in which case you may do one action of your choice but not both. On the right side of your home board is the mountain with your cave, and on the left side is the forest. To start building in your forest, you must first clear away the trees on your turn by placing a dwarf on an action space like clearing. Remove all the wood that has accumulated and add it to your personal supply, and or take a twin tile with a meadow and a field and place it onto your forest vertically or horizontally, covering 2 spaces. The first tile in the forest must be placed outside your cave entrance. Subsequent tiles are placed adjacent to existing tiles. If your place tile ever covers a food or wild boar symbol, gain it immediately. There's no limit to the amount of goods you may have in your personal supply. Animals you gain never go in your personal supply, but must immediately be placed onto your home board or converted into food. Otherwise, they're forfeit. These illustrations show you which goods may be converted and the number of food you'll get for that conversion. For example, you may convert 2 gold coins, or 1 donkey, or 1 sheep, or 1 grain into 1 food. You may never convert dogs or a single gold coin into food as illustrated here. These conversions may be done at any time during the game without constraints, even at the instant you obtain a new farm animal. Sustenance will provide you with crops like grain and vegetables, which you will place in your personal supply. Crops may either be converted into food or sown in fields to grow additional crops. To sow, take an action like Slash and Burn, which allows you to place a meadow field twin tile on your home board, and then or sow up to 2 grain and 2 vegetables from your personal supply onto empty fields. The picture shows 2 more grain and 1 more vegetable from the general supply being placed on top of the sown crops. Do this each time you sow a new field. Fenced-in meadows are called pastures. They hold farm animals. Every animal except the dog is considered a farm animal. You are never allowed to mix different types of farm animals in the same enclosure. To build a pasture, take an action like sheep farming and pay 2 wood for a small pasture and or 4 wood for a large pasture and or 1 stone for a stable. You may build all 3 of these, but only 1 of each. And then or take all the sheep that have accumulated on the space. When you build a pasture which may hold up to 2 farm animals, just flip over the meadowfield twin tile on your home board. When you build a large pasture, which may hold up to 4 farm animals, grab a large pasture twin tile from the general supply and place it across 2 adjacent meadows. When you build a stable in a pasture, you double the capacity of that pasture. So a small pasture with a stable will hold 4 farm animals, and a large pasture with a stable will hold 8. You may not have more than 1 stable per space. A large pasture takes up 2 spaces, so you could build 2 pastures in it, giving you a maximum capacity of 16 farm animals in that large pasture. Meadows may not hold any farm animals on their own. A stable in a meadow may hold at most 1 farm animal. A stable in a forest may only hold 1 wild boar, but no other animals. If you ever decide to build a meadow or pasture on a space already containing a stable, just place the stable on top of the tile so that it remains on the space. You are limited to 3 stables. Once they're built, you may build no more. Stables, pastures, and fields cannot be moved or destroyed, so be sure you always place them somewhere you won't regret it later. Dogs provide another way of keeping farm animals. They only tend to sheep, not cattle, donkeys, or wild boar. Dogs may be placed anywhere on your home board, but are only useful in a meadow or pasture. When placed, dogs may watch 1 more sheep than there are dogs on that space. For example, this meadow has 3 dogs, so I may place up to 4 sheep on the space with them. If you place dogs on a space with a stable, you may not use the stable until you move the dogs. Your cave may also keep some farm animals, but there are only a couple of places. Your entry-level dwelling can hold 2 dwarves and 2 same-type farm animals. Ore mines and ruby mines may each hold 1 donkey. And some furnishing tiles, like the breakfast room, have the ability to hold a few farm animals. If you ever need to optimize the placements of your animals, you are allowed to move all of them around whenever and however you'd like, as long as the final configuration follows the placement rules we've just discussed. When you wish to expand your cave, take an action like excavation, which gives you stone and or your choice of a cavern or cavern tunnel twin tile, and place it adjacent to your existing cave system. To furnish a cavern with a tile from the supply boards, take an action like housework. Choose an available furnishing tile, pay the depicted costs, and place it on top of an empty cavern in your cave. You may not furnish tunnels, mines, or empty mountain spaces. Furnishing tiles do a variety of special things that give you an edge and are also worth gold points at the end of the game. Each one is self-explanatory, but if you need more clarification, see the appendix included with your game. Note there is a difference between furnish a cavern and furnish a dwelling. The latter only allows you to place a red furnishing tile with the word dwelling on it, whereas furnish a cavern lets you place any color furnishing tile. To gain a new dwarf, you must first have enough dwellings in your cave so that the new baby will have a room to move into, then use a family growth action like Wish for Children. When you do, place 1 new dwarf on top of the dwarf taking the action. You may not use this new dwarf until the next round. You only have 5 dwarves, but 1 player may give birth to a 6th dwarf if they've built the additional dwelling in their cave. During stage 3 of the game, you will eventually flip over the Family Life action card. When this happens, immediately flip over Wish for Children to side B, Urgent Wish for Children. Ore Mine Construction lets you build 1 ore mine and then or embark on an expedition. Ore mines must be placed across 2 adjacent tunnels. You immediately gain 3 ore after you build them. Half of the tile has a deep tunnel which can be differentiated from an ordinary tunnel by its darker background. You may not build ore mines on top of deep tunnels. Ruby mines, on the other hand, may be built on deep tunnels as well as on ordinary tunnels. If and only if you build a ruby mine on top of a deep tunnel, you will receive 1 ruby as a bonus. Rubies are sort of a wild card. They can be exchanged for single tiles or goods at any time during the game. See your overview card for exchange rates of rubies.
Action spaces like ore mining give you 2 bonus ore for each ore mine in your cave.
Ruby mining will give you a maximum of 1 extra ruby as long as you have at least 1 ruby mine. Sending your dwarf on an expedition will reap rewards, all of which you may review on your expedition loot overview card. A dwarf needs a weapon before he may embark on an expedition. To forge a weapon, take an action like blacksmithing, spend up to 8 ore, take a weapon strength marker matching the number of ore you spent, and place it on top of your dwarf. Only unarmed dwarves may forge a weapon, and you cannot spend ore later to upgrade a pre-existing weapon. The only way to increase a weapon's strength is to go on expeditions. The expedition level is indicated here on the action space. The level represents the number of different rewards you will gain from this expedition. Your dwarf's weapon strength corresponds with the strength values on your expedition loot overview card. You may choose rewards equal to or less than this number. You may not choose the same reward twice. For example, strength value 3 has 1 stone and or 1 donkey. You decide to take 1 donkey as the first of your 2 rewards. You may then decide to take 1 stone or something else as your second and final reward. You may not take another donkey since you are only allowed to take each reward once. Strength value 1 lets you choose 1 wood or 1 dog, or increase all of your dwarves' weapon strengths plus 1 at the end of the expedition. Only dwarves that currently have a weapon, including the dwarf on the expedition, will gain this plus 1. It does not forge a weapon for an unarmed dwarf. Finally, at the end of your expedition, that's after you've taken all of your rewards, the dwarf you sent on this expedition gains plus 1 weapon strength as XP. So if you took the strength value 1 after expedition all weapons plus 1 reward earlier, you have raised this dwarf's weapon strength plus 2. The adventure action allows you to embark on 2 separate level 1 expeditions, each granting you 1 reward. Meaning you could take the same reward twice, and what's more, you'll gain plus 1 XP after each of these expeditions. The max strength a weapon can be is 14. Weapons are bound to your dwarves. You may not transfer or get rid of them. When it is your turn, you must always use your unarmed dwarves to take actions first, then use your armed dwarves in order of lowest weapon strength to highest. But you may spend 1 ruby to use a dwarf out of turn. In other words, I could use my level 14 dwarf on my very first turn if I spend a ruby, and then play the remaining dwarves as normal, unless I spend an additional ruby, which would let me play an additional dwarf out of turn. At the end of the work phase, the starting player token is not passed. The only way to become the starting player is to take the starting player action. If you do, you will be the first to take your turn in the next work phase, and play will continue clockwise from you. Phase 4, Return Home. Remove your dwarves from the game board and place them back in their dwellings. Any baby dwarves will now move into their own rooms, but will remain babies until the start of the following round. Phase 5, Harvest Time. Some rounds end with a harvest and some don't. If this round's harvest marker is a green leaf, it's time for a harvest. If it's a red question mark, place it on the topmost space of the Harvest Events card and follow the instructions on the right. If there is no harvest marker for this round, follow the instructions on the underlying banner instead. Every harvest has 3 subphases which may be reviewed on your overview card. Subphase 1, Field Phase. Take the topmost crop off of all of your fields and add them to your personal supply. Any remaining crops will stay where they are until the next harvest. Fields may not be replenished with additional crops until they are empty. Subphase 2, Feeding Phase. Each dwarf in your cave requires 2 food during a harvest. Baby dwarves only require 1 food because they are still infants. But they will grow up at the beginning of the following round and will require 2 food during the next harvest. If you do not have enough food to feed your dwarves, or you do not wish to produce the required food, you must beg. Take 1 begging marker for each missing food. There is no way to get rid of begging markers, and you lose 3 gold points for each one you have at the end of the game. Subphase 3 is the breeding phase. For each type of farm animal, if you have 2 or more on your home board, regardless of whether they are together or separate, you will gain a maximum of 1 additional farm animal of the same type. Dogs are not farm animals and thus do not breed. All new farm animals are gained at the same time, not one by one. Unlike the work phase, you must forfeit any baby farm animals you cannot accommodate on your home board. You may not convert them, farm animals of the same type, or any other farm animals that have had a baby this phase to make room at this time. You can convert a farm animal type that has not had a baby this phase. For example, I have 2 sheep, 5 cattle, and 1 donkey on my home board. I have at least 2 sheep, so I will gain 1 additional sheep. I have at least 2 cattle, so I will gain 1 additional cattle. I have only 1 donkey, so I will not gain an additional donkey. My baby cattle can join the others because there's room for him in the large pasture. This small pasture may only hold 2 farm animals and it's already at capacity. If I can't find room for my baby sheep, he will be forfeit. I can attempt to rearrange my farm animals to make room, or I can convert my donkey into food because no baby donkeys were born this phase. I may then move my baby sheep into his new home, the donkey's old pen. Games will continue until the end of round 12, then it's time to score and find out who wins. The included scoring pad makes this simple. You will get 1 gold point for every animal you have, including dogs, -2 gold points for every farm animal that you do not have, not including dogs because they aren't farm animals, half a gold point rounded up for each of your grain, both in your personal supply and planted in fields, 1 gold point for each vegetable, both in your personal supply and planted in fields, 1 gold point per ruby in your personal supply, 1 gold point for each dwarf in your cave. You'll lose 1 gold point for every unused space on your home board, so be sure to use up as much of your board as possible. Unused just means it does not have a tile or stable on it. You'll get any gold points printed on furnishing tiles, pastures, and mines, and you'll get bonus points from tiles with an asterisk. These gold points vary depending on the tile. Count up all of your gold coins, worth 1 gold point each, and finally subtract 3 gold points for every begging marker you have. The player who has the most points is the winner. If there's a tie, tied players share the victory. And that's your No BS guide on how to play Caverna. If you enjoyed this video, please consider donating to the No BS Guide Patreon for more. And like it, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.